So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the basics of TinkerCAD modeling. So when we jump into TinkerCAD in your dashboard, if you're in circuits, we're going to need to move over to 3D designs. So we're going to click on 3D designs, and we're going to create a new design. Now, the first thing I want to say, and this actually could go for the TinkerCAD circuits, is the default name for every file in TinkerCAD is something dumb. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename that file to be something not smart, not something like powerful Sango. We want, how about basic model video. And also Tinkercad defaults to a millimeter grid. We're going to switch that grid to inches. So I click on edit grid. We're going to switch our units to inches. Update grid. This should switch to 1/8 inch. Now, how to navigate in Tinkercad. It's much easier with a mouse. Let's go first. With a mouse, the first thing we can do is we can pan. By clicking on the middle of your wheel, pushing the wheel down, I can move the area around. If I right click, I can orbit, and I can zoom in with my mouse wheel. So orbit, there. I can also orbit by grabbing onto the navigation cube here and flipping around. Panning is a little harder because I don't really have a control. So if I only have a touchpad, I can highlight with single click. If I use two fingers together, I can move my fingers in and out to zoom in and out. And I can mostly have to do mouse navigation with the cube. So if you can get a mouse, it's going to make your life way easier. There. I can also tap on different sides of the cube to get different views. So I can click on the 3/4 view. I can click on just top view. I can click back here. I can click on front. Now, let's start off and actually put something onto our area. So I'm going to start off by taking a box and drop it onto the line. It doesn't matter really put it. I'm going to try to line up the corner, just make it a little prettier, but it doesn't matter. Now, when a box comes in, it's going to come with a default size, a radius of 0, 10 steps, and length, width, and height of 1. So the first thing we can do is we can change the radius. All it does is it softens the edges. Now, if you notice, if I soften the edges all the way to a ball, and I'm going to have to use my mouse, I can't live without it, but see how there's kind of a grid shape? That's controlled by the steps slider. So if I bring the steps all the way up, it's going to be smoother. If I bring the steps down, it's going to be more blocky. So we're going to leave this back to a radius of 0, so it's not actually a cube. I can also adjust the height, width, and things. So I'm going to change the height, the length, to 2. I could drag it this way. This is frustrating because getting exact is very hard. But if I go and click on the box over here, I can set it to be 2. I'm going to leave the width 1, and I'm going to make the height 0.1. Now, if I click on, say, top, I can sort of see, looks like a nice rectangle. Everything looks good. It's not on the corner anymore, but that doesn't really matter. We can adjust rulers and stuff later we'll talk about. I'm going to add a little radius to the thing to make it more of a roundy keyring shape. The exact radius doesn't matter. That looks pretty good. Now, what we can do now is add a second object. So I'm going to grab a cylinder. I'm going to drag him in. Now, this is what drives me nuts with TinkerCAD, is nothing's consistent. Here, we can't adjust the size of the cylinder. Only thing we can adjust is how smooth it is, whether it's a hole or a solid. We'll leave it solid right now. If there's a bevel, and if it has segments, which I don't even quite understand what that does, I'm going to leave that at 1. So I can also resize it, and I can do this here. I could also resize by grabbing this. It'll pop up a number. If I click here, I can click on the number and change it. Here, I'm going to take and look at my object from the top. And you'll notice it's kind of awkward. So I'm going to start dragging this guy over. And as I move him left and right, he's going to look like he's falling over. And that's because we have perspective mode on. That's controlled with this button here. We're going to switch to orthographic, which basically means if I look straight on, I'm straight on. I'm now going to scale this down by grabbing the corner. And let's drop it down to like a quarter by a quarter. Now I can move this guy into a position. And if I click on the navigation cube, I can see I have a cylinder. I'm going to re-click on the cylinder, and let's make that a hole. Now that says this should be cut out of here, but it doesn't actually cut until we take and group those together. So TinkerCAD, the workflow is you bring shapes in, you get them laid out right, then you group them, then you add more shapes, group them. So I'm going to hit Control A, which selects all. The other way I can do this is clicking and dragging with my left click down and highlight everything. And I'm going to click on the group button, and that's going to take and make the hole actually a hole. Now I have a rectangle with a hole punched in the corner. So that is what we covered in class on the 20th. But if you're not in my class, obviously this still applies to using TinkerCAD.